Hello everyone. Welcome. It's 12:04. We are starting our live here. Hello, Maggie. How's it going? I'm having to do this on my phone. We're having some technical difficulties. So we are getting set up over here. Hi, Tepora. Kia ora. Beautiful. Thank you guys for joining us today on our 54th week, right? So this is crazy. 54 weeks since we started. I think we're just over that in terms of how the pandemic is going here in the US. Crazy times, but good times. So I jumped on a little bit late. We're having some technical difficulties, so we're having to do this on my phone. I am assuming that my screen is upright and that everyone can hear me, and I hope that is the case. Could you please let me know in the comments? Oh, we got a thumbs up. Sweet. Well, team, today I'm super stoked and happy to be with you guys. First of all, I want to say thank you to the Native Wellness Institute for continuing all of these power hours and allowing us all to have space to come to be brave and safe and talk about things that matter in our lives today and what we can do about the future. So, as way of introduction, my name is Joshua Cocker, and I am Kiowa on my mom's side. My people now live in the southwest corner of Oklahoma. And on my dad's side, I'm Tongan from the Kingdom of Tonga in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Born in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and currently living in Santa Ynez, California. This is my partner's territory, so we have two beautiful children. A baby girl who's 8 months now, 8 months today, or yesterday. And her name is Toge Horoma, which means she kills in the snow. And then our boy is 3 on his way to 4. And his name is Antuk, which means more than a friend. So I'm visiting you all right now virtually in their territory and super stoked to be talking about what we're talking about today. So I'm talking about with all of you. We are talking about catching a vision, tools for planning. This is the stuff that gets me excited, and it's something that's actually been super present on the mind of myself and our little family here in California, talking about we're all home together, or we're working, trying to make things happen. Where do we go to from here? And so I really want to start us off in a good way. And in order to do that, I believe that setting a foundation will help us with that. So first and foremost, I guess before we start talking about some of the tools that have been rolling around in my mind for a while, I want to address all of us, including myself, so that we can be reminded of a few things in the process. Number one is super important, and it is to remember that everything that is in existence is fighting for our success. Yeah, the earth has chosen its purpose to be our success. And when I think about that, I'm often reminded about some of the teachings I grew up with. The trees are breathing for us. They serve us. The plants only speak in the language of service. Water speaks in the language of love. Our four-legged relatives speak in the language of family and community. They teach us how to be an individual in a community, and also teach us how to be able to look for predators who might be trying to infiltrate our community. When you're hunting and you're learning this teaching, it's like, well, how do you identify predatorial tracks? What are the ways that we can identify like certain habitat? When we see those things, more often than not, we just kind of give up on the chase because, well, if a mountain lion's after an elk that we're chasing, probably not going to get the elk. But those same principles apply in our lives, in our communities, right? So if we think about our communities as a herd, and we think about us as like an individual animal in that herd, what can we do to help move things along? How can we help build up ourselves to make us like an asset to the community? And how can we look out for those who are predators? And I mean that in terms of like energy sucking negative Nancy's, which is the first thing that comes to mind. Another thing that comes to mind is relatives that ask a lot and struggle with reciprocity. All of us are worthy of the best things, and we're able to get those intricate and intense lessons from falling around animals in the woods. These things are real. These things are absolutely real. And I'm grateful to live in this time where we're able to be with one another virtually and talk about these things openly, because it wasn't that long ago that we weren't legally allowed to be ourselves, yet here we are wearing hoodies like I'm worthy. Oh, you can't see on the back, but it says you're worthy, we're worthy. It's a beautiful time to be alive. It is a beautiful time to be alive in a space where we can connect in this great way too. So I wanted to set that tone before we get going. Number one, everything in existence is fighting for our success. It lives for our success. The sun rises to give you permission to live your life any way that you want. We can choose to be the world's worst, best felon, depending on how you look at it, and or a ceremonial leader. And it really comes down to what we choose to be dedicated to. That is beautiful. Air and opportunity, nothing between us. The second thing that I want to set our foundation with on top of that is everything that we need is always right where we are. And I mean that in a super literal sense. We play this game with a lot of youth and groups that we work with virtually, where we do a scavenger hunt. And we ask people to find 3 things. Actually, let's do that now. If you would be so kind as to take a healthy risk and join me here. I'm going to ask you to find 3 objects, one representing love, one representing power, and the third representing love, power. Let's go love, power, and a goal. Love, power, and a goal. So you don't have to run away now and grab those things, but just have those in your mind. If you are able to go and get those things, that would be awesome in your immediate area. If not, we can just think about like, what items would I get in my house? I'm trusting that as we're talking about this, your mind is meeting me here. That voice inside your head that makes sense of the world around you, that my Uncle Gene talks about a lot, is agreeing and finding those things in yourself. Everything we need is always right where we are. I've had the opportunity, been blessed with the access to people who can teach traditional fire in terms of like being able to rub sticks together, pop out a coal, blow it into flame, and keep that fire throughout a time on an expedition or a ceremonial space. And that teaching is super awesome. They talk about learning how to be with the plant nation around us, understanding how you can ask a cottonwood tree, seep willow, yucca root, cedar, juniper, and various other plants to be able to call for fire. And they do this and they say, yeah, I see, everything that you need is always right where you are. Which backs up the teaching that we were just talking about before, that everything in existence has chosen its purpose to be your success. The last thing that I want to set for our foundation today is to share a teacher, love, power, and a goal that we have. I just saw it in the comments. It says love, power, and question mark, a goal that we have. Life goal, daily goal, however you want to put it. I'll let you define that one. The last one that I want to share is a teaching that comes from, or came to me by way of an elder, Charlie Tailfeathers, who is now gone on, a great mentor and spiritual giant. Charlie, he shared this teaching about when babies come into this world, they're precious. And having a baby in our home, I am beginning to realize more and more what that means. Actually, I want to share a little bit about her birth. Don't get hold of me. So we were in the hospital down in Santa Barbara, and it was a long labor, and it was a hard day, and it was starting to go into the night. And I've never in my life, speaking candidly here, using the best words I can, felt more useless as a partner. And man, I just saw this woman that I love struggle for so long, and there wasn't anything I could do but rub her back and sing songs. So I did what I could to help out. And as we were going through this process, sooner or later, baby decided, yeah, it's time. And she came. And as she was being born from her mom, Eva was crying, and I was crying, and baby was crying. And in those moments, I didn't really know what to think or how to feel about it. I started telling all my friends, after we had gone to the postpartum unit, my baby's here. Like, I'm a dad right now. I'm a dad. It's crazy. And one of the things that was a common question was asked was, how does it feel? Like, what's going on in your head? Like, what are you thinking right now? And I didn't really have words, but what came was a phrase after some time, and it was this. It was everything that I didn't know I needed, I felt like I was filled with in a moment, and I couldn't stop crying. Like the real ugly crying, like my face started turning red, like snot coming down, can't really talk, kind of like that kind of crying. And it was intense, man. It was intense. And I loved it. And I feel like having waited to know this little one for 9 months, this beautiful little girl, I get to go on a date with her every single day. And sometimes in the middle of the night too, when she wakes up from her own farts. And I'm filled with this feeling again and again, like, holy crap, like this is a little human who relies on us for everything, and it's beautiful. It's amazing. When Charlie says that when we were born, we are special, that's what that means to me now. And I hope that as we're talking about this, when babies are born, they're special. That you're able to draw on your own experiences of what it is to love someone else. And the reason why we draw on those experiences is to remember that we too are special. We were those cute little babies that farted so big, we woke ourselves up and freaked out. And everyone wanted to hold us, to change our diapers, to make sure we were fed, to give us all of their wallets and anything they had in their pockets to let us play with, to help us feel joy. As we go throughout our life, though, sometimes our life experience leads us, as Charlie would say, to lose our way. And maybe it's bad relationships, maybe it's money problems, I don't know, whatever it is. Somewhere along the way, sometimes we forget how special we are. But the fact is still there, that we are indeed special. We came from the seat of creation. We are a blessing to the people. And the moment that we came into this plane of existence, our first mother, the land, begins to breathe for us. It begins to bless us with the sun and the moon. And it begins to bless us with connection and family. And these things are given to us because we are worthy of those things. So shout out again to NWI sweatshirt. I am worthy. Yes, I am. And yes, you are. Yes, we are. So hopefully we're able to gain some of that insight, as to how precious children are. Remember that we ourselves, we're precious, are precious, and will be in the future too. Because old people, our elders, we love them the same way. Like you might be changing an elder's diaper like you changed a baby's diaper. You'll be sitting there like, oh, can I get you anything? It's so lovely to see you. Oh, it's so good to see. How you been? Here, take my seat. Yeah, that same kind of love is reciprocated to us when we're close to the end of this part of our journey and at the beginning of our journey. I hope that if we haven't yet, with all of the wisdom being shared on these power hours, found a way to encourage that love in our current walk, no matter where we are, that we start doing that. So our three teachings of foundation for today is that everything in existence has chosen its purpose to be our success. Everything that we need is always right where we are. And the last being You are worthy. You are precious. You are a gift. And I believe that those three pillars will help us kind of stand on something as we move into to this idea of planning. Last time I was on, we were talking about what the heck were we talking about? We were talking about purpose, and we were talking about how to move with purpose, how to stand with purpose, and even sleep with purpose, and do things in a way that tied us more to this gift of life that we have, to make us hopefully a little bit more grateful for the things that we have. And by saying that, I don't mean that, hey, you're ungrateful, or hey, I'm ungrateful. I just mean that we can always grow in gratitude, and as we do that, we'll move closer to the people that we're meant to become. Okay, cool. So we've talked about our three pillars of our foundation, and now I want to ask a question to you, and please join me in this conversation in the chat. We all can learn from your insights as well, and we would love for you to be able to share those insights that you've gathered over your lifetime. My question is this: how do you experience wealth? How do you experience increase? And how do you experience abundance? The reason why I think this question is so important is because in terms of planning, in terms of purpose, purpose gives us the ability and tool set to be able to self-identify and to speak into existence the things that we truly believe in. And with that purpose, we then are able to make a plan. Without purpose, making a plan's making a plan. But with that purpose, it becomes more a calling in life, and it gives us a place to move forward to, and we're able to do things truly, I believe, in a good way. I want to share a little bit of what my answer would be to that. And again, please join me in the comments here and share how you feel about those things. How do you experience wealth? How do you experience abundance? And how do you experience increase? When I was young, growing up in Oklahoma, we had a lot of beautiful stories to draw on in the time of winter. Awesome. I'm seeing some sweet comments coming up here. Perfect. Thank you. And as I was listening to some of these stories, I realized that some of the things that were talked about in these stories aren't necessarily in our community or our daily practice. And that knowing of, I suppose, for lack of a better term, that there is a lack of, made me curious. We don't have a lot of elk hunters anymore. We have quite a few horse people, and by that I mean people who have horses, but we don't necessarily, like when I would ride for people back home, didn't hear them talk about horses in the way that we talked about them in our stories. And so I was like, oh, interesting. As I grew up, I started to ask more questions, and I began to realize that I was limited by my own life, like experiences, being like a 14, 15-year-old kid. Like, actually, bro, we do. Here, come and meet so-and-so. And so I began to kind of have these mentors come into my life just by being curious. And I thought that was awesome. And as I got older, I began to understand how to ask people questions that were on my heart, right? Because things can be lost in translation. If it's like, well, why don't we all live in teepees and hunt anymore? If these things are so important to us? I feel like that's the wrong way to ask that question. Maybe another way to ask that same question in terms of like coming from our three pillars of foundation, right? Knowing that we're a gift and knowing that all of existence works for us to be able to be happy, and it's a blessing because we are worthy of only the best things that this life has to offer. Another way of asking that question is, hey uncle, hey auntie, who in our community or in other communities do you know of that works with horse medicine? I kind of want to learn more about that. When I was younger, I'm gonna say my old people, my elders, like jumped on that, like, oh my boy, that's so sweet, yeah, come on, and they would just, start that fire in Indian country. Hey, whose cousin works with horses? And we were able to find and make those connections, and it was a beautiful thing. I experience increase, and I experience wealth by restoring some of our traditional wealth to my family. I believe the things that we talk about here. The board of the Native Wellness Institute will often state that the purpose of the Native Wellness Institute is to continue the ancestral teachings of our people, to breathe life into those things today. The board and other trainers of the Native Wellness Institute, when we get together, whether it's just as friends hanging out or we're standing and we're training, will constantly say that healing is the answer to trauma. And there's absolutely no fault in that statement. I love that idea that healing is the answer to trauma. I've also had a number of conversations where we've talked about and explored the idea that our culture is the way to access our healing processes, things that are going to help us as individuals. That culture is the answer. I believe that, and I love that. And so that's the way that I choose to view success. This is the way that I choose to view increase. And so I've sought out opportunities and been led to some other opportunities. And I'm happy to share with everyone here that, when I met some of the crew of the Native Wellness Institute, I was able to find a mentor who at the time was 17 when I first met him, to help me learn how to elk hunt and process the meat in our own home, how to harvest the teeth, and even I draw on them like 2 weeks ago, how to help me process hides. I love salmon and I love other fish, but I'm a terrible fisherman. Now I'm able to set up like trades with just people in our community, like, hey, I'll trade you some meat for some fish, and it goes well. As well as fire material. I always try to keep fire material around in our house. And by fire material, I mean those plants that I was talking about. There are plants and there are also tools that you can gather from animals. And when we go out hunting, I'm often able to find the bones that are going to help me make fire in the future. And these are things that I find that bring us increase, that bring us wealth, that tie me closer to my people. And the reason why I share these things is because I think it's important to talk about. How do you experience wealth? How do you experience increase? Because these things that we're expressing, that we're sharing with one another, this is going to be, in a large part, what helps us define our purpose. So, I guess I could share something from my youth as well. When I was younger, I dropped out of high school at 16, and as a young guy with limited schooling and limited skill set, at that time in my life, money kind of became the most important thing because, gotta have money to live. And so I just started chasing opportunities to do that, which led me to Papua New Guinea, building hospitals and schools and houses over there. That's a crazy story, man. There was the crew that they were working with. There's a lot of young men who would get malaria or get in trouble with the locals and weren't able to go back. So they had this high rate of turnover. So my brother and I went over and we were able to basically just put on mosquito repellent and not get malaria, but also work hard. And so that helped us. So at that time, money was the focus. And for me at that time, from pretty much 16, I would say probably to 20 about, I was only chasing opportunities that would bring me closer to more money. And MC1 has been on a couple of times on here. Shout out to MC1. awesome homie with great insights, and he talks about like what you step towards is what will continue to invite you. And I think I butchered that statement. He actually says it way cooler, but it's true. So when I was chasing those opportunities, I was doing a specific way. I was like, oh, I'll do construction, kind of body on the line thing, young, expendable, like I can work with that. And as I would step towards those opportunities, more and more opportunities came my way to do exactly that. And so it was awesome. It was great for that time. As my in my adult life, older child life, I'm not sure. 20s, we'll go 20s. As I've been stepping towards this new definition of what wealth is, and what increase is, and what abundance is, the same thing happens. Those opportunities, access to those opportunities, continue to step towards me as I step towards them, and it's a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing. So it's important to identify, what is it that I'm chasing with my life and my energy and my mind and my heart? What is it that I'm yearning for? Those things are true. There's another teaching that I'd like to share, something that comes from fire. So the Plant Nation speaks in the language of service, and one of the ways that they serve us is that they teach us about legacy. They teach us about our gift to the next generation, and impart what it means to walk in a good way. So if you think about a tree will grow up towards the light. Plants in general, but we'll use a tree. Trees will grow up towards light all their life. Some will point like a pine, and others will celebrate, right? As they reach up towards the light with all of their life force, they're covered by shadows every night. The sun will come up, break the horizon. They will loose those shadows without a second thought and continue to grow. Excuse me. As they grow in their life, they come to know the light that they chase. This is important because when people believe that the medicine of fire lives in 3 places: our hearts, which we use our hands to call that out. We believe that fire lives in the Plant Nation, and we believe that fire lives in the Great Fire of the Sun. So as these relatives grow up towards the sun and they learn the light, they are gifted a portion of the light that they chased all their life. And when they die, they fall down. Everything has its time. So deadened down wood is the best firewood. And if you could say that to someone, and I've been a few places in the world, and it's freaking true. Firewood, go and get me firewood. Dead and down wood in every culture, in every place, is the best firewood. And when you bring this wood in, you start that fire any way that you start it. You put that fuel on that fire. You got fuel, oxygen, heat. You got that triangle. The fire is roaring. And it's a beautiful thing. That fire now establishes a people, right? So, and by that I mean, think about like a campsite. So you have a fire going. It is a centerpiece of your encampment. Everyone will be drawn to the fire. It draws those that you love close to you, and it keeps those that would mean to do you harm in any kind of way, predatory animals, far from you. So keeping a fire keeps mountain lions away. Keeping a fire throughout the night keeps bears away, generally speaking, if you have a clean camp. And even those who are approaching your camp know that they have to ask permission, because this space is sacred. And it's a beautiful thing. But that light that we're looking at, that light that has all that power, where did that come from? Our teachings say that it comes from the actual sun. They grew up towards the light, and in their death, their gift is the light that they chased. So what we're talking about when we say hey, how do you experience increase? How do you experience wealth? How do you experience abundance? This is the light that we chase. And our gift to our next generations is going to be that light that we chased. If it's money, then it's money. If it's elk teeth and pipestone and feathers, then that's what it is. If it's a love for music, then that's what it is. If it's overcoming intergenerational and historical trauma by having healthy relationships in our family and empowering our young ones to find that type of love elsewhere through friends or partners in any way that they experience it, then that's what it is. And I hope that that as we're talking about this, like even as I'm saying this, my mind is like, oh yeah, I guess that could be another way that I experience wealth and abundance and increase as well. We deserve those things because they are a part of the best things that this life has to offer. And again, we're worthy of only just that. So as we're talking about experiencing abundance, and identifying the light that we chase, knowing that we're worthy, knowing that all of existence is working for our success, and loves us so much that it's chosen it to be its purpose. I hope that our mind starts turning and opening up to possibilities, because now we're going to be talking about how do we get from where we are now to those places. And one of the things that I want to share is just like a super general and easy to use tool, and it's about kind of coming at it from a really big picture point of view and then narrowing down in on it. So and by that I mean, having this idea of like, one day I would like enough elk teeth to be able to put 5 rows front and back on my baby's dress. There's only two teeth, to an elk. And if I want to be able to provide that for my daughter, that's a lot of teeth. That's a lot of elk. So I need to be open to, that's big picture. I need to be open to possibilities, be searching for friends, looking for ways to be able to open up opportunities to be invited to go hunting, to learn more about how to be a good hunter, to, just kind of being there for those times, and offering that kind of reciprocity. So I'd need enough tobacco to be able to give to these people, or other gifts to celebrate them for the gifts that they're giving me. And that's what I mean, kind of big picture, little picture. But what we're doing here, right? So the title, I guess, of our Power Hour today is Catching a Vision. What we're doing here is we are seeing ourselves in the future. And as we're seeing ourselves in the future, our future selves are pulling us towards that place. This is a gift that belongs with us. And this attribute is a defining attribute of our peoples. Actually, everyone in the world knows us for doing those things. So much so that there are people you could pay to go to Sedona, Arizona, where they try to facilitate an experience where you have a vision. And in this vision, you'll see your future. And that stuff gets pretty wacky, and I think a lot of it's appropriation. But for the most part, I do want to say this, that again, this is a defining attribute of our people. It's what we're known for. And I believe that that what we're doing as a people, as we're evolving, as many would say, that we're coming back to those things. I don't think that they were ever necessarily lost. But I think as we continue to breathe life into them, they're becoming more alive to us, and we're becoming more alive to them as well. This is there's a story actually that I want to share too, that's going to help us, another tool to be able to move us along in our planning and ability to catch that vision. It's pretty intense to see the effects of intergenerational and historical trauma play out in our lives. As I become more informed about what has happened to our peoples, to my people specifically, I'm able to draw direct lines to current day behaviors and processes that are not necessarily helpful for our community. Now, in doing that, I don't necessarily do that to look down on other people, like, oh yeah, look at your trauma, freaking sick. No, it's not why I do it. I do it so that I can understand. I believe that listening to others is an incredibly important skill, because when we listen to others, they become alive to us. I've been using that term a lot, becoming alive to one another. I'll go into what I mean by that in a second, but as I understand, what it is that I'm looking at, I'm then able personally to build a path forward to move towards the things that I do want, right? Because I identify those behaviors and I tie them to, okay, I can see how we got from point A to point B. I don't necessarily want to be there, so I'm gonna find something that I am for. I'm gonna find something that I do want, and now I'm gonna move towards that. And in doing that, hopefully I'll be able to build skills that I can help others with, because we deserve those things. So, okay, quickly before I tell this story, this idea of like, what does it mean to be made alive to something and for something to be made alive to you? That's only made possible through listening. I will say, I've come to find that in my own life experience. And as we become alive to things, we're familiar, we are tied to, and as those things become alive to us, they become familiar to us, they become tied to us. If we were to apply that principle to ceremony, for example, I become alive to ceremony. I invest my time, my heart, my thoughts into beginning anew every time I step into that circle and I dance. And I prepare things to give away that are not helpful, and I seek healing. While I'm listening to those spaces, and they listen to me. I become alive to that circle becomes alive to me. And in doing so, I'm able to let go of those things. I'm able to heal from the things that have happened in the past year, and I'm ready to start this next year. It gives me a kick forward. That's what I mean. That same process can apply to people too. No matter what we think of them or what past experiences we've had, or what futures we hope to have with them as well. If we listen to one another truly, and it takes two, if we listen to one another, then we're able to become alive to each other. And in that process, we're all better because of it. Okay. So we're getting back to the story that I wanted to tell, this next tool. This tool that I want to share is love. And how do we love? And who do we love? And when do we choose to intensify that love? This story has the answer. And it's one of my favorite stories. It's a story about a young man who had a confrontation with someone in his encampment, and he got so mad that no one was taking his side. And just really quickly, in terms of conflict, when there's sides to be had, there's a fight to be had. So this young man decided he would see this other person as a vehicle, an obstacle, something that stood in his way. And so he needed others to ally with him. Hey, this dude did me wrong and nobody's like listening to me. Well, this young man eventually was told by his father to be patient and to be quiet. And that did not sit well. As things were escalating, he wanted to be heard, felt like he wasn't being heard, and he just felt so betrayed by everyone that he loved. He got so mad that he took off. I don't need you guys. On his journey away from his people, he came to these slot canyons. And these slot canyons, they were twisty and windy and dangerous. And he decided, I don't want to get up on top. It's kind of a big climb. I think I'll just find my way through. It's got to come out somewhere, and anywhere's better than here. And so he begins his journey. And he's walking through these slot canyons for most of the morning. And it starts to turn into the afternoon. The evening comes. Now, in his part of Turtle Island, and in this season, so do the rains. So these huge monsoon clouds start rolling in, humidity shifts, temperature starts to change, the sky begins to darken. He knows what's going on. He also knows that in this slot canyon, it's a dangerous place to be. But these sandy, rocky walls that are shooting up on either side all around him are difficult to climb. And so the fear and anxiety begins to build in his heart, and he doesn't know what to do. The rain starts, and it's just wetting the ground at first, bringing up that beautiful smell of dirt when it's first rained on. And eventually, a slow trickle begins to come down his way from the canyon ahead. And that trickle gets bigger and bigger, it starts to get stronger and deeper. And this young man doesn't really have time to think about how mad he is at his people, at his parents. And he just starts to fear for his life. Looking for an exit, a way up, away from the water. He finally finds this boulder that he can cling to, man. He's up there biting it with his teeth, going and crawling. And as he's ascending, he's able to make it away from that water. He gets up to the top, but that monsoon is relentless. And that rain keeps coming down. The young man in this story, as he later recounts it, says that the water came down in such a way it felt like it was tearing his clothes from him. So hard and heavy, he couldn't see very far in front of him. In those moments, your core temperature is being challenged. Your body's trying to regulate. It's really dangerous to be out there. Exposure is a big killer. So he starts to look for some type of shelter. And as he's going, he's not sure in which direction he's heading. He's just looking for shelter. Finally, after a long time of looking, he's able to find a place underneath the rock. He can tuck up in there and get warm and stay wet, but try to survive the night. He goes into the shelter and he prays for help, and eventually rest comes. He falls asleep, and in the morning he wakes up and he steps out of the shelter, takes in the heat of the sun. And he was praying for help the night before, brought him to the shelter. And as he comes out and he's feeling this new day, he opens his eyes and he realizes that he's there, back at the sacred mountain, or a sacred mountain to his people, which at the foot is his encampment. He realizes that he shouldn't have left. Feels bad about what's happened, sad, tired, hungry, thirsty. So he goes home, and as he's heading home, comes into his encampment, and he's met by his family, not with distaste, not with judgment. Nobody's like, yeah, you like that? Should have stayed home. Should have listened. He's met with love and encouragement. Bring him in. They love him up. Get him some dry clothes, some food, some water. We're going to talk about it. Hey, man, what happened? For this young man, this story later became a story of triumph and a story of love. He says that the water that was there that day was the love of his people that turned him back home to the place where he belongs. And when that story came to me, the teaching was, this is how we're meant to love. We are meant to love with such intensity. It feels like it's pulling the clothes off of their body. But like, don't actually pull their clothes off of their body, right? Because that's illegal. So we're meant to love them with so much intensity that it's hard to see anything else in front of them. We're meant to love them with such intensity that they can see it coming from miles away. This is the way that we're meant to love. I've had water explained to me as a language of love too when I was younger. My grandpa threw a rock into a pond, and a lot of stories about my grandpa Carlos. This is one of my favorite stories. So threw a rock into a pond, kind of ripples out. Goes, oh, you see that? That's how I'm meant to be with people, Does that water try to hold on to the mark of the rock? Nope. Lets it go, man. Swallows it up. And that's how we're meant to be. Step on the bank of a river as the water is flowing. Your footprint will stay there for a bit, but eventually it will let it go. It will erase it. And it won't be like it was never there. Actually, it will change the space that it was there. Yeah, this is how we're meant to love people. Think about like the Grand Canyon. Or I know we have some of our family from Aotearoa here. So any fast flowing, strong river, when we think about those things, we usually think about strong, firm banks. That water has power, direction, and flow, and it has those things because of those strong boundaries that are held. In the Grand Canyon, it is those steep canyon walls that afford that water power, direction, and flow. See, this is how we're meant to love. We're meant to love with strong boundaries. And as we do those things, we'll invite others to respect our boundaries too. If they're firm, people will know that. And those who are able to love us in the correct ways, they'll be there for us. They'll go on those adventures with us. And those who don't have the capacity yet, for whatever reason, it's all right. They'll step away in one way or another. This is what it means to love. And often when we talk about these things, what I found is, and I thought about this a lot as well when I was younger, is I would think about loving other people that way. And that's how it started, you know. This is how you're meant to love your mom. It's how you're meant to love your sisters, sonny boys. How you're meant to love your brothers. You love them with that kind of intensity. You love them with those hard boundaries. You let go of things that don't help you. And as I got older, you know, started hearing people tell me things like, wow, this is how you're meant to love yourself. My question to you is this. For whatever those stories and examples and teachings meant and felt to you, do you love yourself in that way? It's rhetorical, but an honest question. Do you love yourself in that way? See, when we think about abundance, when we think about prosperity, when we think about wealth, it's sometimes nice to think about what those things mean. But without that self-love, it will feel like this goal that just can never be reached. Something that you can imagine, but not necessarily for yourself. We need that love. We need that love. The last thing that I want to say, our last tool for planning, catching that vision and moving into our better future is this. One of the gifts that I was given when learning about mediation, one of the gifts that I was given when learning about conflict resolution, and communication styles that help those things move along. Like, I was learning this so that I could help kids in the woods get over whatever it was that they needed to get over, which is a really, like, probably shouldn't have said it that way. We worked on helping them find ways to heal. That's what I should have said. Is our way of being invites others to be that way. That's the truth. It's the truth. So, our way of being invites others to be that way. If you were to walk into a room and be super angry and slam the door behind you, people would be invited to meet you in that space somehow, some way. Maybe some people would be like, ooh, don't talk to that guy. Maybe some people would be like, hey, what the heck's your problem? You want to go out and try that again? And maybe some people would be like, hey, man, what's going on? You want something? You need to talk about something? Either way, the fact is, our way of being invites others to be that way. We need people. We need people as individuals, as communities, as a planet, as a species, to be in a good way, so that their way of being invites us to be that way too. Once upon a time, I was one of those kids walking in the woods that needed to get over stuff. When I first went to treatment, it was people who loved themselves with that kind of intensity, with that purpose, who understood that the world loved them back just because they're alive. Those people who walked in a good way invited me to walk in a good way too. As we as individuals take on this challenge, this opportunity to step into this type of love, to step into this type of this way of looking at the world, seeking for abundance, knowing that we're chasing this light and being confident that this is the gift, this is the light that we want to leave, those who follow us. As we walk and move forward with the intention and with the understanding that we come from the seed of all creation, that we're gifts to the people that are just around us every day. Like every person that you walk past, if we realize like, hey man, I'm a gift to you. It's good to see you. Also, you're welcome. And we realize that all of creation has chosen its purpose to be our success. Our plans will be made sure. They will come about. It will happen. There will be nothing that could stop us along the way. That vision that we catch, it's going to be real. And we're going to give other people the permission to seek those things too. You all I am super happy to be here with you. And I'm grateful to be given this opportunity to be able to share with you. My thoughts and my feelings, and also the teachings that have come to me over my lifetime. Some of the things that I shared, I've stretched through time and space to be with us today. I don't know when they came about. It was a long time ago. And, those things were given to my grandpas, my uncles, my aunties, my dad, my mom. And they were whispered to me, yelled at me, and shared with me in important times in my lives. And now they're made it here. This is a beautiful moment that we're living in right now. You all have done the same too, by bringing yourselves into the comments and sharing with us your thoughts and feelings. And I'm grateful for that. I want to say thank you so much. Guys, this week, we're coming to a close here. I just saw the time. This week of Power Hours is going to be awesome. Please be kind to yourself. Drink a lot of water. Eat good food. Go to sleep on time, man. And be fearless in the way that you live your life. We're all better because you came our way. And I hope that you believe it. For the next 4 days, we're going to be putting on Power Hours. Please come back and join us. And if you are looking for more positive content, feel free to check out the Native Wellness Institute page. We have a video archive there. We also are building a video archive on the YouTube channel. I just saw that come up in the chat. So check it out. There are hundreds of hours of good stuff on there. You deserve the best. I'm grateful for you. And continue on. I look forward to seeing you guys in the future. Have a good day. I'll catch you guys up.